Hi, beautiful being. I am so happy that you are here today and that you found this video. I'm going to speak about emotional abuse and how to deal with it. This is going to be a little bit unexpected video because I know there's a lot of stuff out there. So many people talk about gaslighting and toxic relationships and narcissists and how to deal with abuse of any kind of control and manipulation. This is not what we're gonna talk about, or this is not what we're gonna focus about. It's gonna be very different, but very liberating, because at the core, what most people suggest, what's there out there today, is that they will tell you that perhaps if you are being abused emotionally, that your self-worth is low, your self-esteem is low, and therefore you need to be raising your self-esteem, your self-worth. You need to be valuing yourself more. And really, like, it's all about these either affirmations or doing some practices, just doing something that will somehow raise the value. But what if I told you that it has nothing to do with your value? In fact, there is no such a thing as a value. Just look. You wake up in the morning. Is it really you would ever think such a thought as, today I'm not gonna value myself very much? Would you ever choose to have such a thought? Would you ever choose to think, I'm not gonna really esteem myself very high? Well, that's simply what's not, it just doesn't happen. And I know that it might sound crazy right now, but we're just gonna look at what is at the very core. And it's so simple. And it's that simplicity that will really help you to deal with any kind of emotional abuse. It's really that simple that it's almost too simple to believe. But as I'm saying, we're gonna look. Don't believe anything that I'm telling you here. We're just gonna look, and you will look for yourself. Because when people start to really try to deal with the situation, just look how many people staying in either some sort of abusive relationships with any kind, co-workers, marriages, friends, any kind of manipulation, control, gaslighting. The focus is always on trying to figure it out, analyze. So the focus is usually on them. That's why there's so many videos about narcissists and how to figure them out. And the more you try to do this, the more you're disconnecting yourself from the real problem. The more you're trying to do anything in here, it's this effort just perpetuate that story. You know, the story stays put. It's a story of the one who doesn't have a high self-esteem and the story of the one who controls them. And it's just a story, and that's why we're gonna look at what is at the very core, the simplicity. And also, when we try to figure it out, when we are focused on the other person and the story stays put, this is what is so painful, because it feels like we are trying so hard, or we are working on our self-esteem. I mean, just look into your life. If you ever worked on your self-esteem, or, I mean, it's just never-ending journey. It's one thought can change this whole setup. One thought, or you see someone just flirting in front of you, which is exclusion. You're back into just thinking, or, you know, there's just no amount. There's no amount of raising your self-esteem that will ever be enough. And that's why let's just not go that way today. If you choose to just stay with this and look what is actually going on. So what is actually going on when we are staying or being in some sort of abusive relationship, or we are experiencing emotional abuse, usually some sort of control? What really happens is that a thought comes up, or there is a thought or a belief, deeper belief, underlying belief, and it's what stops us from leaving. And we are incapable of leaving this relationship. So let's take a look at what any kind of emotional abuse have in common. So whether it's some sort of gaslighting or manipulation, control, any kind of toxic behavior, what do they have in common? And we're speaking here from the perspective that you are the one receiving this treatment. I suppose you're watching this video because you are quote-unquote victim, or the one who has low self-esteem and has to do something about it. So what does all of this have in common? It has in common one thing, and that is that we are actually unable to leave. We are unable to leave either the relationship or the conversation, or sometimes we are unable to speak up for ourselves or really say what is true to us. We suppress all these emotions, which is also a form of leaving, because if we speak up, if we say the truth, then the danger is that the person might leave us. So we are just so scared of it. And the reason for this is, the simplicity of it is, that the only reason, it really has nothing to do with your low self-esteem, you're a poor thing, you're somehow inferior to somebody. It is not your fault. None of this is your fault. What happens is that a thought appears, an image. It is like a hypnosis, but we don't notice, we don't know until we start really inquire deeply into, when we do deep inner work around this. There is this context from we come from, and this image, it lives as a story in our timeline, in our minds, and it shows us what will happen, the consequences if we leave this relationship. So we are so scared. Let's say the belief can be, I don't have, this person is my only choice, or if I leave, I will die. I mean, literally, we believe it. Like, it's this image is showing without our awareness. We don't see it, but it's there. We react to it. So we believe 100% that if we leave in this situation, something bad will happen for us, and it will have bad consequences for us in the future. And that's all there ever is to it. It doesn't mean that you are worse, weaker, somehow helpless or unprivileged than anybody else or the other person who is abusing you. It's really not your fault. Just like you wouldn't choose these thoughts in the morning, like, oh, today I woke up and today I'm gonna value myself very low. You would never do that. You would never choose that. And in the same way, you're not choosing these images. They just appear. They are part of a story. And so an image appears and shows you that you really have no other options, that you will be somehow insecure, or something will happen, you will be always alone and you will always die alone, or you will be depressed if you leave this relationship. And it can be at work even, if you leave or if you say something. So we are so scared that this happens, this imagined future, that we are unable to really be in this relationship or in this situation. And so I want you to really just notice. This is about noticing that it has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with you or your self-esteem, and it has everything to do with that fear, which is completely unreal. But we cannot help, everybody cannot help but believe it 100%. We are so convinced, and everybody has a totally different image. Everybody plays a totally different movie, and it's not even yours. And so what to do about it? Well, this is exactly what you need to do if you're in any situation of emotional abuse, and maybe it's been going on for a very long time. This is very simple, but it's also hard to do. It's hard to notice because the self-image is really protecting something. It's protecting you from this imaginary danger, which seems to be so painful. So we simply need to look and recognize that it's just a belief. It has nothing to do with reality. But it's convincing us so much. It's like this hypnosis. So I want you to simply look at this scenario. Imagine that you really believe that you're staying in this abusive relationship. And for example, and I'm not saying that you should be leaving the relationship. By leaving, really, it's about speaking up or just making choices from feeling free in this. As long as there is a movie playing on my imaginary timeline about that I'm gonna be stuck alone and hurting in the future, I am unable to make these decisions in the present moment. And so imagine that you really believe that, for example, you're with a boyfriend, he's emotionally abusive, and you believe that he's your only option, and you really, there's a movie playing that there's nobody else, alone, dying alone. he is the only option. He's your best option. And so you feel stuck. You feel like you really feel so stuck, and that's why we're putting up with all this abuse, with all this manipulation and control, but it has nothing to do with you. So imagine somebody else who wouldn't have this kind of movie, or imagine yourself in a different kind of situation. Somebody who doesn't believe that this person is my only option. What would that feel like? They would just feel like, oh, like you would never settle for what they do. It's just feels free, and you make these decisions. It's like, imagine you go to a store and someone starts shouting at you or doing something. It's not like you're undecisive, like you just leave or you take some action. But as long as you're free to do that, it's really effortless. It doesn't require years of thinking and really trying so hard to work on yourself, trying so hard to work on your increase your self-esteem and to really value yourself. It has nothing to do with that. The only thing that you're really dealing with is that fear that if they leave you, you will be depressed. And you need to deal with that depression now, not waiting until that happens or if it happens. You're dealing with now. The person is there only to cover it up, that real problem, that real belief that's going on underneath. And that's it. There's nothing wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with you, even though it looks like such painful scenario. And I know it's very hard to look into those underlying beliefs, what we really believe, or maybe we don't even know how to deal with them, or maybe we even feel guilty about our past decisions. Maybe we made already a choice like that. We left somebody and then it was painful. And so I actually created this journey, this mind journey that you can watch, which is super fun. But at the same time, you will deal with your guilt tripping. And it's so important to really know how to deal with your guilt. So you stop being overly careful in your life. And so you can really make decisions from this freshness without those underlying beliefs. If you haven't watched Mindflix yet, then the link will be always in the description of the video. And a lot of people who watched Mindflix, they really cry and they have all these experiences, a lot of these releases. And now you know how to deal with your guilt. If anything happens in the future, you can always watch Mindflix. And you can apply to this situation. You can watch it as many times as you want. But what happens over time, or what happens even the first time, is that you now know that you cannot believe anything that you're thinking. And often we don't even know what we are thinking. So it helps you to really go and look deeper into your story. Because as I said at the beginning, it's so simple that it's so hard to believe. We like this complexity. And so I'm going to leave you the link for the Mindflix and the link in the description of this video. And I would love to hear your comments. If there is anything that you're going through in your life right now, or any specific questions about manipulation, because we can look at it from this perspective. This is really the simplest way of dealing with emotional abuse, to just put attention 100% on you, what you are thinking and believing in that situation when you are hurting, because that is that problem, that is the root. And if you were someone who doesn't have that, just imagine how free you would be. So really there is taking all that attention from trying to figure them out, trying to fix them, trying to take care of them, or trying to help them, and really putting all your attention, all your thinking into you.